President Kevin Hayes stood before the United Nations Assembly, looking at representatives from every nation on Earth. In his hands was a document that would either save humanity or doom them forever. He had made his decision. Today, we share everything, Kevin announced. Every piece of knowledge the Watchers have given us will be transmitted to every alien civilization in the galaxy. We choose trust over fear, cooperation over competition. The reaction was immediate and divided. Some delegates cheered. Others looked terrified. But the decision had been made, and there was no going back. Captain Roy Martinez commanded the first human ship to leave the solar system since the Draconian fleet had disappeared. His vessel, the U.S. Horizon, carried no weapons. Instead, it was packed with communication equipment and scientific instruments. Its mission was to find alien civilizations and share humanity's new knowledge with them. "Are you sure about this, Captain?" asked his science officer, Dr. Claire Adams. "We're flying into unknown space with no protection." "The Watchers are watching," Roy replied. "If we're genuine about cooperation, we have nothing to fear. If we're lying to ourselves, weapons won't save us anyway." The first alien civilization they contacted was the Zephyrians, a peaceful race of traders who had been avoiding Earth's sector for months. When Roy's ship appeared at the edge of their system, the Zephyrians nearly fled in panic. "Please don't be afraid," Claire broadcast. In the universal trade language, "We come with gifts, not threats." The Zephyrian response was cautious but curious. They had heard about the Draconian fleet's disappearance and were terrified of whatever had destroyed it. When Claire began sharing detailed star charts and technological information freely, the Zephyrians were shocked. "Why are you giving us this?" asked Captain Varash of the Zephyrian trade vessel. "This information is worth more than our entire fleet." "Because knowledge belongs to everyone," Claire replied. "We're here to help, not to profit." Word of humanities. Action spread across the galaxy faster than anyone expected. Species that had been hiding in fear began to emerge from their defensive positions. The idea of a civilization voluntarily sharing advanced knowledge was almost unheard of in galactic history. Dr. Amy Foster monitored the Watchers' reaction from her laboratory on Earth. The ancient Guardians were becoming more active, their communications increasing dramatically. Through Dr. Peter Kane's translations, humanity learned that the Watchers were surprised by human behavior. "They've never seen anything like this," Peter reported. "In millions of years of testing, no species has ever chosen to give away knowledge freely. Most species try to use the information to gain power over others." "What are they saying about you?" Amy asked. They single quotes got impressed. "They're calling humanity unprecedented and remarkable. But the test isn't over yet." Meanwhile, the galaxy was changing in ways no one had expected. Alien civilizations that had been enemies for thousands of years were beginning to cooperate, inspired by humanity's example. The free sharing of knowledge was creating possibilities that had never existed before. The Helix Federation, a group of advanced alien species, sent a delegation to Earth. Their leader, Ambassador Kethmari, was one of the oldest beings in the galaxy. She had lived for over 2,000 years and had seen the rise and fall of countless civilizations. "We have come to understand what you have done," Kethmari told President Hayes. "You have changed the fundamental nature of galactic civilization. Species that have fought for millennia are now talking about peace." "We're just sharing what was given to us," Kevin replied. "That is exactly why it is so remarkable. Power corrupts most species, but you have chosen to give power away. The Watchers have chosen well." The Draconian Empire, meanwhile, was struggling with internal chaos. The disappearance of their third fleet had shattered their confidence, and the sudden cooperation between other species had left them isolated. Emperor Draxthil himself sent a secret message to Earth. "We wish to negotiate," the message said. The Empire is willing to discuss peaceful relations with humanity and the Watchers. It was Lieutenant Colonel Gary Bell who handled the Draconian communication. The Watchers had given him specific instructions about how to deal with the former. Galactic bullies. The Watchers are willing to give the Draconians one chance, Gary told President Hayes. But they must prove they can change. They must release all their conquered worlds and transition to a peaceful civilization. Will they agree to that? Kevin asked. They're scared enough that they might. Losing an entire fleet without understanding. How or why has shaken them badly. 6 months after humanity began sharing knowledge, the galaxy was transforming. The Galactic Council, which had been little more than a discussion group for thousands of years, became a real governing body. Species that had never trusted each other were forming alliances and partnerships. Dr. Claire Adams was appointed as Earth's first galactic ambassador. Her job was to help coordinate the sharing of knowledge and resources between different civilizations. It was a role that had never existed before, because no species had ever been trusted enough to fill it. The elder races are calling it the Great Awakening, Claire reported from the galactic capital. They say it's the most positive change in galactic history. Civilizations are sharing technology, art, and culture like never before. But the most important change was happening on Earth itself. The Watchers had begun emerging from the deep oceans, showing themselves to humanity for the first time. They were even more magnificent than the submarine crew had described. The largest Watcher was over 1 kilometer long, a living city of crystal and metal that pulsed with gentle light. It surfaced near the coast of California, causing wonder rather than fear among the humans who gathered to see it. Dr. Susan Cole was one of the first humans to communicate directly with the surface Watchers. The conversation lasted for hours, covering topics that spanned millions of years of galactic history. They're not just guardians, Susan reported afterward. They're teachers, librarians, and protectors all at once. They've been saving the knowledge and culture of every species they've tested, preserving it for future generations. What about the species that failed the test? President Hayes asked. Their knowledge lives on through the Watchers. Even the Draconians will be remembered for their achievements, not just their failures. The Watchers preserve everything worthwhile about each civilization they encounter. The final test came when the Watchers offered humanity the ultimate choice. They could continue as they were, sharing knowledge and helping other species, or they could accept a greater responsibility. They could become Watchers themselves, helping to guide and test new civilizations throughout the galaxy. It means leaving Earth, Gary translated. Some humans would travel to other worlds, becoming guardians of planets where new intelligent species might evolve. It's a commitment that lasts for millions of years. And if we say no? Kevin asked. We continue as we are. The Watchers will remain as Earth's guardians, and humanity will be free to explore the galaxy and help other species. Either choice is acceptable to them. President Hayes put the decision to a global vote. After everything humanity had learned about their place in the universe, they would choose their own future together. The results were closer than anyone expected, but the decision was clear. Humanity would accept the responsibility of becoming galactic guardians. Some humans would stay on Earth, continuing to share knowledge and help coordinate galactic cooperation. Others would journey to distant worlds, beginning the long process of watching over new forms of life. Captain Roy Martinez was among the first volunteers to become a Watcher. His ship, the UES Horizon, was transformed by ancient technology into something that could travel between stars and survive for millions of years. Are you ready for this? Dr. Claire Adams asked him before his departure. I think this is what we were meant to do, Roy replied. Not just humans, but all intelligent life. We're meant to help each other grow and learn. As Roy's ship disappeared into the depths of space, beginning its journey to a distant world where new life was stirring. The galaxy settled into a new age of cooperation and growth. The Draconian Empire had peacefully transitioned to a federation of independent worlds. Species that had been enemies were now partners in exploration and discovery. And deep in Earth's oceans, the Watchers continued their ancient vigil, no longer alone in their cosmic responsibility. For the first time in millions of years, they had found a species worthy of joining their ranks. Humanity had passed the ultimate test, not through conquest or cunning, but through their willingness to choose the good of all life over their own advantage. The galaxy would never be the same. General Carl Mason had seen many wars in his life, but nothing had prepared him for the intelligence reports flooding his desk. Across the galaxy, alien civilizations were running away, not from humans, but from what humans might become if they failed the Watcher's test. "Look at these numbers," Carl said to President Kevin Hayes. 17 different alien races have abandoned their colonies in our sector of the galaxy. They're leaving behind cities, mining operations, everything they've built over thousands of years. President Hayes studied the reports. Each one told the same story. Ancient alien civilizations that had existed for millions of years were packing up and fleeing toward the center of the galaxy. They were terrified. "Why are they so scared?" Kevin asked. "We haven't threatened anyone." "Because they know what happened to the other civilizations on Earth," Carl replied. "They have records, Kevin. They've been watching Earth for millions of years, and they know what the Watchers do to species that fail the test." Dr. Amy Foster had been working day and night to understand the Draconian biological samples. Her latest discovery made her hands shake as she wrote her report. The process that had destroyed the Draconian fleet was not just feeding. It was learning. The molecular breakdown patterns show systematic analysis, Amy explained to the Emergency Science Committee. Whatever consumed the Draconians was studying them at the same time, learning their biology, their technology, their weaknesses. Learning. For what purpose? Asked Dr. Michelle Barnes. To become stronger. The Watchers have been doing this for millions of years. Every species they've consumed has made them more powerful and more intelligent. They know how to defeat any form of life in the galaxy. The committee was silent. They were beginning to understand the true scope of what they were dealing with. The Watchers were not just Earth's guardians. They were collectors of knowledge from every intelligent species that had ever existed on the planet. Meanwhile, Dr. Peter Kane continued his communication with the Watchers. The deep-sea creatures were becoming more talkative, sharing information about Earth's history that no human had ever imagined. "They're telling me about the previous civilizations," Peter reported to the government leaders. "There have been 12 different intelligent species that evolved on Earth before humans. Each one reached a high level of technology and then faced the same test we're facing now." "What happened to them?" President Hayes asked. "The first few failed quickly. They were too aggressive, tried to use the Watchers for their own gain. The Watchers eliminated them within decades of first contact. And the others? Some lasted longer. There was one species that existed for almost 1,000 years after meeting the Watchers. They were called the Builders, and they created incredible cities and technology. But in the end, they also failed the test. How? They decided that they were superior to other forms of life. They started experimenting on other species, trying to improve them or control them. The Watchers saw this as a sign that they would become conquerors if they ever reached the stars. The pattern was always the same. Each species would be contacted by the Watchers and offered a choice. They could accept guidance and become part of a greater cosmic purpose, or they could continue on their current path. But if they showed signs of becoming a threat to other life in the galaxy, they would be eliminated. President Hayes faced the most difficult decision in human history. The Watchers had sent him a direct message through Dr. Kane. Humanity had 30 days to prove they could be trusted with the knowledge of the Watcher's existence. What exactly do they want us to prove? Kevin asked during an emergency cabinet meeting. Lieutenant Colonel Gary Bell had become Earth's primary liaison with the Watchers. He spent hours each day in communication with them, learning about their expectations and requirements. They want to see how we handle power, Gary explained. They've given us knowledge that no other current civilization in the galaxy possesses. They want to see if we'll use it to help others or to gain advantage over them. What kind of knowledge? Everything. They know the location of every habitable planet in the galaxy. They understand technologies that are thousands of years beyond what any current species has developed. They know the history of every civilization that has ever existed in this part of the universe. The test was more complex than anyone had realized. It was not enough for humans to simply avoid being aggressive. They had to prove they could be trusted with unlimited power and still choose to do the right thing. Admiral Lisa Carter proposed a solution that shocked everyone at the meeting. "We give it away," she said simply. "Give what away?" President Hayes asked. "The knowledge, all of it. We share everything the Watchers have told us with every alien civilization in the galaxy. We prove we can be trusted by trusting others." The room erupted in arguments. Some leaders thought Lisa's idea was brilliant. Others thought it was suicide. "If we share this information, we give up any advantage we might have," warned General Mason. "Other species might use it against us." "That's exactly the point," Lisa replied. "The Watchers want to see if we can choose cooperation over competition. They want to know if we can put the good of all life above our own survival." Dr. Susan Cole supported Lisa's idea. "The Watchers have been testing civilizations for millions of years. They know every trick, every excuse, every attempt to cheat the test. The only species that might pass would be one that genuinely chooses to help others instead of helping themselves." President Hayes spent sleepless nights thinking about the decision. The wrong choice would mean the end of humanity. The right choice might mean the beginning of something incredible. Through Gary Bell, the Watchers shared more information about their purpose. They were part of something called the Cosmic Network, a galaxy-wide system of guardians who tested intelligent species to see if they could evolve beyond their destructive instincts. "Most species fail," Gary translated. "They become conquerors, like the Draconians, or they destroy themselves through war and pollution. Very few species ever pass the test." "Has any species ever passed?" President Hayes asked. "Yes, but very rarely. The species that pass become part of the network. They help test and guide other developing civilizations. They become guardians themselves, watching over younger species and helping them grow." The final piece of the puzzle came when the Watchers revealed humanity's unique position in the galaxy. Earth was not just another testing ground. It was the most successful testing ground ever created. No other planet had produced 12 different intelligent species. Most testing worlds only managed to evolve one or two before the conditions changed too much. "Earth is special," Gary translated. "The Watchers have been improving the planet. With each civilization that evolved here, they've been preparing it for something. Preparing it for what? For a species that could pass the test. A species that could become the galaxy's first new guardians in over 1,000,000 years. Humanity was not just being tested to see if they deserved to survive. They were being tested to see if they could take on the responsibility of helping other species evolve and grow. They could become the teachers and protectors that the galaxy desperately needed. But first, they had to prove they were worthy of that trust. And they had less than 30 days to do it. The fate of humanity, and possibly the entire galaxy, hung in the balance. Everything depended on whether humans could choose wisdom over power, cooperation over conquest, and the good of all life over their own survival. The test of humanity had begun. Dr. Richard Stone had been studying ancient history his entire life. But nothing had prepared him for what he found in the classified ocean survey reports. As Earth's leading expert on old civilizations, he was given access to secret files that most people would never see. "This changes everything we know about our planet," Richard said to his research team. "These structures under the ocean are not natural. They were built by someone." The deep-sea surveys showed massive buildings buried under miles of ocean sediment. The structures were huge, bigger than any city humans had ever built. But the strangest part was that they were not ruins. Somehow, after millions of years underwater, they were still working. "How is that possible?" asked his assistant, Dr. Amy Foster. "Nothing could survive that long underwater." "Unless it was designed to," Richard replied. "These aren't human structures. They're much older than that. Much older than humanity itself." Commander Ashley Brooks was chosen to lead the first human expedition to the deep ocean structures. She was the best submarine pilot on Earth, someone who had explored places where no human had ever gone before. But even she was nervous about this mission. "We're going deeper than anyone has ever gone," Ashley told her crew. "The pressure down there can crush our submarine like a tin can, and we don't know what we'll find." The submarine was called the Deep Explorer. It was the most advanced underwater vehicle ever built, designed to handle the crushing pressure of the deepest ocean trenches. The crew of 5 included Ashley, Dr. Richard Stone, marine biologist Dr. Susan Cole, and 2 technical specialists, .as. They descended into the Mariana Trench. The darkness around them became complete. Their lights could only reach a few meters in any direction. The pressure readings on their instruments climbed higher and higher. "We're at 20,000 meters," reported the technical officer. "Pressure is holding steady." "Look at that," Susan whispered, pointing at the sonar display. "Something massive is moving down there." On their screens, they could see shapes that defied explanation. The structures were not just buildings. They were alive. Massive forms moved through the deep water with grace and purpose. These creatures were part machine and part living being, unlike anything in Earth's fossil record. "My God," Richard breathed. "They're beautiful." The creatures were enormous, each one the size of a city block. They moved through the water like whales, but their bodies were covered in what looked like metal and crystal. Lights pulsed along their sides in complex patterns. They were clearly intelligent. "Are they trying to communicate?" Ashley asked Doctor. Peter Kane was back on the surface, listening to the sounds the creatures made. Peter was Earth's best language expert, someone who could understand alien communications better than anyone else. Through the submarine's communication link, he was recording every sound the deep-sea creatures made. "It's definitely a language," Peter reported. "Very complex. They're using sound, light patterns, and some kind of electromagnetic signals all at the same time." "Can you understand what they're saying?" Ashley asked. "I'm trying. Give me more time." As the submarine moved closer to the creatures, one of them approached. It was massive, at least 200 meters long. Its body glowed with soft blue light, and intricate patterns covered its surface. Instead of being aggressive, it seemed curious about the small human vessel. "It's scanning us," Susan reported. "I'm reading some kind of energy beam passing over our submarine." The creature circled them slowly, like a whale studying a strange object. Then it did something unexpected. It began to flash its lights in, a pattern that matched the submarine's own navigation lights. "It's copying us," Ashley said with amazement. "It's trying to communicate." Peter worked for hours, comparing the creature's signals to known communication patterns from across the galaxy. Finally, he made a breakthrough. "I've got something," Peter said excitedly. "They're not just trying to communicate with us. They're trying to tell us something important, something about Earth." The message was simple but shocking. The creatures called themselves the Watchers. They had been living on Earth for millions of years, long before the first humans appeared. They were not from Earth originally, but they had made it their home and their responsibility. They're saying Earth is their world, Peter translated. They've been protecting it for ages, protecting it from threats from space. Like the Draconians, Ashley realized. Yes, but not just them. According to these messages, the Watchers have been defending Earth from alien invasions for millions of years. We never knew about it because they live so deep in the oceans. The most shocking revelation came next. The Watchers were not the first intelligent species to live on Earth. There had been others before humans, other civilizations that had evolved on the planet's surface. But something had happened to all of them. They're showing us images, Peter said, his voice filled with wonder and fear. Ancient cities, civilizations we never knew existed. But they're all gone now. The images showed great cities that had once covered Earth's continents. Advanced civilizations with technology that humans could only dream of. But all of them had vanished, leaving no trace behind. What happened to them? Richard asked. Peter listened to more of the creatures' communications. When he translated their answer, his face went pale. The Watchers destroyed them, he said quietly. Every single civilization that ever developed on Earth was eventually destroyed by the Watchers. The submarine crew was silent. The implications were terrifying. But why? Ashley whispered. They were testing them, Peter continued translating. Each civilization was given a test. If they passed, they would be allowed to join something greater. If they failed, they were eliminated. The Watchers explained that Earth was special. It was one of many worlds throughout the galaxy where ancient guardians tested intelligent species. Most species failed the test because they were too aggressive, too selfish, or too destructive. What kind of test? Susan asked. The answer came in a flood of complex communications. The test was about evolution, but not physical evolution. It was about whether a species could evolve beyond its natural instincts for violence and conquest. Could they learn to cooperate instead of competing? Could they choose to help instead of hurt? The Draconians failed the test badly, Peter translated. They were a species built on conquest and domination. The Watchers eliminated them not just to protect Earth, but to protect the galaxy from their influence. And what about us? Ashley asked the question everyone was thinking. What about humans? The Watcher's response was both hopeful and terrifying. Humans were still being tested. Unlike previous Earth civilizations, humans had shown some promising signs. They could be cruel and violent, but they also showed compassion and curiosity. They could choose to help others even when it didn't benefit them. But the test was not over. Humanity's response to learning about the Watchers would determine their fate. Would they try to use this knowledge to gain power over other species? Would they become another conquering civilization like the Draconians? Or would they prove they could be trusted with the truth about Earth's real guardians? They're giving you as a choice, Peter said, his voice shaking. Something they've never done before. Previous civilizations were just eliminated when they failed. But the Watchers think humans might be different. They're willing to work with us if we prove we're worthy. The submarine began its long journey back to the surface, carrying the most important secret in human history. Earth was not humanity's planet. It was a testing ground, watched over by ancient guardians who had the power to eliminate entire civilizations. And now humanity faced the ultimate test. Would they use this knowledge wisely, or would they follow the path of every previous Earth civilization and face destruction at the hands of their planet's true guardians? The fate of the human race had never been more uncertain. 6 months had passed since the Draconian fleet disappeared. The mystery kept everyone on Earth awake at night. Captain Tony Rodriguez had volunteered to lead a mission to find out what happened to the alien ship's. His ship was called the UES Ranger, It was small but fast, perfect for exploring dangerous areas of space. Tony had picked his best crew for this mission. They all knew it might be their last. "Are you sure about this, Tony?" asked Admiral Lisa Carter over the communication link. "We still don't know what happened to those ships. It might not be safe. We need to know the truth," Tony replied. "The whole galaxy is acting strange. Everyone is afraid of us, but we don't know why. If we did something, we need to understand what it was." The Ranger traveled to the last known position of the Draconian fleet. The area looked empty, just darkness and distant stars. But their sensors picked up something unusual. "Captain, I'm reading some very small particles," said Dr. Michelle Barnes. She was the ship's science officer, an expert in alien biology. "They're scattered across a huge area of space." "What kind of particles?" Tony asked. Michelle studied her readings carefully. Her face went pale. "They're biological. Draconian biological." "Material? You mean pieces of the aliens?" "Yes, but something's wrong. These aren't pieces from dead bodies. The molecular structure is all broken down. It's like something digested them while they were still alive." Tony felt sick. "That's impossible. What could digest a Draconian? They're one of the toughest species in the galaxy." "I don't know, Captain. But whatever did this was very thorough. There are no ships, no weapons, no technology. Just these tiny biological traces." Michelle took samples of the strange particles. When she studied them in the lab, she found something that made her hands shake. The Draconians hadn't died quickly. The breakdown process had been slow and systematic, like something had been feeding on them. "I need to classify this information as top secret," Michelle told Tony. "If other civilizations find out how the Draconians died, it could cause panic across the entire galaxy." Back on Earth, President Kevin Hayes called an emergency meeting. All of Earth's top leaders gathered in the most secure room on the planet. The information from Tony's mission was too dangerous to discuss anywhere else. "What you're about to hear cannot leave this room," President Hayes said. "The fate of human civilization might depend on keeping this secret." Tony showed them the evidence, pictures of the biological traces, analysis of the molecular breakdown, theories about what could have caused it. The room was completely silent when he finished. "So something ate them," said General Carl Mason. "Something ate 2 million. Draconian soldiers and their entire fleet." "That's what the evidence suggests," Tony nodded. "But what could do that? What on Earth is powerful enough to destroy the most feared fleet in the galaxy?" Dr. Susan Cole had been waiting for this moment her entire career. She was a marine biologist who had spent 30 years studying Earth's deepest oceans. Most people thought her research was crazy, but now everyone wanted to hear what she had to say. "I've been tracking unusual activity in the deep ocean for decades," Susan said. "Strange sounds from the ocean trenches. Massive movements in areas where nothing should be moving. The government always told me I was imagining things." "What kind of movements?" President Hayes asked. "Something big, really big. Living in the deepest parts of our oceans, places where no human has ever gone. The Mariana Trench, the Puerto Rico Trench, other deep places around the world." Susan showed them her research. Sonar readings that showed huge shapes moving in the deepest waters. Sound recordings of calls that didn't match any known Earth creature. Geological surveys that found strange structures on the ocean floor. "I think something has been living in our oceans for a very long time. Much longer than humans have existed. And I think the arrival of the Draconian fleet woke it up." The room was quiet for a long moment. Everyone was thinking the same thing, but nobody wanted to say it out loud. "You're saying Earth has some kind of monster living in the ocean?" General Mason asked. "Not a monster," Susan said. "Something much more advanced than that. Something that sees Earth as its home and doesn't like uninvited guests. More evidence began to arrive from around the galaxy. Intelligence reports from friendly alien civilizations painted a scary picture. The Draconian Empire was pulling back from the edges of their territory. They were calling their fleets home to protect their core worlds. Danny Parker spent his days monitoring alien communications. The messages he intercepted were all about the same thing: fear of Earth. "They're calling us the dead world," Danny reported to Jake Morrison. "Some aliens think our entire planet is haunted. Others believe we made a deal with something evil. A few think we've developed a weapon that can make entire fleets disappear." "What do you think?" Jake asked. "I think Dr. Cole is right. Something has been living on Earth longer than we have, and it doesn't like visitors." The most disturbing reports came from alien refugees. Entire civilizations were abandoning their colonies near Earth's sector of the galaxy. They were running away, leaving behind cities and resources they had built over thousands of years. Why would they do that? President Hayes wondered. If they're so advanced, why would they be afraid of us? "Maybe they know something we don't," Admiral Carter suggested. "Maybe they know what's really down there in our oceans." Dr. Michelle Barnes continued studying the biological samples from the Draconian fleet. The more she learned, the more frightened she became. The breakdown pattern was unlike anything in known science. It suggested the presence of something that could break down any form of life, no matter how alien or well-protected. "Whatever did this has been studying different forms of life for a very long time," she reported. "It knows how to take apart the biological structure of species from all over the galaxy. This isn't some primitive Earth creature. This is something incredibly ancient and intelligent." As winter arrived on Earth, more strange things began happening in the oceans. Ships reported unusual readings from their sonar equipment. Deep sea research stations detected massive movements far below. Underwater cameras sometimes captured shadows that were too large to be any known sea creature. The truth was becoming clear, even though nobody wanted to admit it. Earth was not humanity's planet. It belonged to something else, something that had been sleeping in the deep waters for millions of years. The Draconian fleet had made the mistake of threatening this ancient guardian's world dot, and now the entire galaxy knew that Earth was protected by something powerful enough to make the most feared military force in known space simply disappear. The question that kept everyone awake at night was simple, but terrifying. What would this ancient guardian do if it decided that humanity was also a threat to its world? Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the U.S. Liberty, watching the stars through the large window. He was the commander of Earth's defense fleet, and today was different from any other day in human history. 17 massive alien ships had just appeared at the edge of Earth's solar system. Each ship was huge, bigger than any city on Earth. They looked like dark metal beasts floating in space, covered with weapons and strange lights. The aliens who owned these ships called themselves the Draconian Empire. They had ruled part of the galaxy for 3,000 years. "Sir, we're getting a message from the alien fleet," said Lieutenant Danny Parker. He was young and nervous, his hands shaking as he worked at his control panel. Jake nodded. "Put it on the main screen." The screen flickered and showed the face of an alien that looked like a giant lizard. Its eyes were yellow and cold. Sharp teeth filled its mouth when it spoke. This was Fleet Admiral Vexthil, the leader of the alien fleet. "Humans of Earth," the alien said in a deep, scary voice. "I am Fleet Admiral Vexthil of the 3rd Expeditionary Fleet. Your world is now under the control of the Draconian Empire. You have 72 hours to surrender completely. If you refuse, we will destroy your planet and everyone on it." The screen went black. Jake felt his heart beating fast. He had known this day might come, but he had hoped it never would. "Get me Admiral Carter," Jake said. Admiral Lisa Carter was in charge of all Earth's military forces. She was tough and smart, someone who never gave up, even when things looked hopeless. Her face appeared on Jake's screen within minutes. "I saw the message," Lisa said. "How many ships do they have?" 17, Admiral. Each one is about the size of Manhattan. Our sensors show they have enough firepower to turn Earth into space dust." Lisa was quiet for a moment. "We knew this could happen someday. Other planets have fallen to the Draconians. They take over worlds, steal all their resources, and force the young people to fight in their army. What are your orders, Admiral?" "We fight," Lisa said simply. "We might not win, but we won't just give up. Get all our ships ready for battle." Jake knew their chances were terrible. Earth had only 50 ships, and they were much smaller than the alien ones. But he also knew that humans had surprised enemies before. The first day passed slowly. The Draconian ships stayed at the edge of the solar system, waiting. Earth's leaders met in emergency meetings, trying to figure out what to do. Some wanted to surrender. Others wanted to fight. But everyone knew that Earth was not strong enough to win against the alien fleet. On the second day, something strange began to happen. Danny Parker noticed it first while monitoring the alien ships. "Commander Morrison," Danny called out. "Something's wrong with the Draconian fleet." Jake hurried over to Danny's station. "What do you mean? Their energy readings are going crazy. Look at these numbers." Danny pointed to his screen. "Their power levels are jumping up and down like crazy. And they've stopped talking to each other." Jake frowned. "Are they having technical problems?" "I don't know, sir. But this isn't normal. Yesterday, their communications were perfect. Now there's almost nothing." Throughout the second day, the situation got stranger. The alien ships seemed to be having serious problems. Their formation broke apart. Some ships drifted away from the others. Their weapons powered down. Dr. Michelle Barnes was Earth's best expert on alien technology. She worked day and night, trying to understand what was happening to the Draconian fleet. "I've never seen anything like this," she told Jake over the communication link. "It's like their ships are falling apart from the inside. But there's no sign of any attack." "Could they be sick?" Jake asked. "Maybe. Or maybe something else is happening. Something we don't understand." By the end of the second day, the impossible happened. The Draconian fleet simply disappeared. All 17 ships vanished from every scanner and sensor. One moment they were there, the next moment they were gone. Danny Parker checked his instruments. Over and over. "Sir, they're just gone. No explosion, no debris, no energy signature. Nothing." Jake couldn't believe it. "That's impossible. Ships that big can't just disappear." But they had. The most feared fleet in the galaxy had vanished without a trace. Admiral Carter called an emergency meeting with all of Earth's military leaders. Everyone was confused and worried. "This doesn't make sense," said General Carl Mason. "The Draconians don't just give up. They've conquered hundreds of worlds. They don't retreat." "Maybe they had an emergency somewhere else," suggested Captain Tony Rodriguez. 17 ships? Lisa shook her head. "That's not an emergency response. That's their entire third fleet. Something happened to them." Over the next few days, more strange things began to happen. Earth's long-range communication systems picked up messages from other alien civilizations. The messages were all the same. Stay away from Earth. Trade routes that had existed for hundreds of years were suddenly changed. Alien ships that used to pass near Earth's solar system now took long detours to avoid the area. It was like the entire galaxy had decided that Earth was dangerous. Danny Parker spent hours listening to alien communications. Most of it was in languages he couldn't understand, but the fear in the voices was clear. "They're scared," he told Jake, "all of them. But they're not scared of the Draconians anymore. They're scared of us." "That doesn't make sense," Jake said. "We didn't do anything. We don't even know what happened to the Draconian fleet. But somewhere deep in Earth's oceans, ancient things were stirring. Things that had been sleeping for millions of years were waking up. The arrival of the Draconian fleet had triggered something old and powerful, something that the galaxy had hoped would stay asleep forever. And now, as word spread across the stars about the disappearance of the Third Expeditionary Fleet, every alien civilization knew one thing for certain. Something on Earth had the power to make an entire Draconian fleet vanish without a trace. No one dared to ask what that something might be.